Hello, people of YouTube land, and those that are part of the Cringe Crew Gaming Discord community, and also those that follow us on Twitch. I am Traductus,
And I'm Ted.
and today is Thursday. Well, at least when this is uploaded, it's Thursday. Sorry, I can't lie and pretend. But for all you guys know, this is Thursday, not Wednesday. This is Thursday. This is the James Bond podcast by the Cringe Crew Gaming, I guess, network.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, make it sound more prestigious. And for those that are just watching now, the concept of this entire podcast is that you have me, a huge James Bond fan, and Ted here, who watched a couple, not very familiar with the series, newbie to the series, and we watch all the Bond films one by one, and we give our thoughts on each thing. As usual, we have the overview, where I talk about how the film, casting decisions, how the film was made, how much money it made. Then go on to likes and dislikes. Whatever has more ends up having the one that goes first, or less goes first, whatever we decide to do. Then our overall thoughts and rankings. Today we are covering the first Timothy Dalton Bond film, and that is 1987's The Living Daylights. And this movie is rather interesting, mainly because, number one, this is the last James Bond film until I think 2006 is Casino Royale. At least I think that was released in 2006. I haven't looked it up, and I'm kind of lazy at this point. So we're just going to we're just going to say the Daniel Craig Casino Royale. This is the last one to actually have a title from either a James Bond novel or a James Bond short story from the Fleming stories. Reasoning behind that is, I guess they didn't like the name title of Quantum of Solace until later on, and they didn't care for Property of a Lady, Risiko, Hildebrandt Rarity, and of course 007 in New York. So, but this one, actually has takes its title from the short story The Living Daylights, and when we get into likes and dislikes, actually kind of expands upon the short story, which is really cool. But anyway, The Living Daylights had a budget of $40 million and had a box office taken of $191.2 million. And obviously was a huge an improvement. I'm not sure it's a huge improvement. I'm thinking film quality, but it's an improvement from A View to a Kill. That being said, we are other neat things about this. Aha does the theme song for this, and unlike Duran Duran collaborating with John Barry, and this is the last time John Barry does the music for a Bond film, and he also makes a cameo in this movie as a conductor. But apparently, Aha and John Barry didn't really get along, as opposed to John Barry and Duran Duran, mainly over what versions of the song should be used. Obviously, John Barry's version with the symphony overdubs and everything was chosen, while the Aha version is on a regular album. Hold on. Yeah, it's on their album Stay on These Roads, which does not have the symphony elements. It's just basically synth pop. Um, but Aha preferred that version and wanted, that type of version to be in the movie, and there was a huge argument between that. Although later, uh, um, a few members of Aha actually said that even though they preferred their version for the movie, it was the right decision to use John Barry's version, because without the symphony, it wouldn't have sounded very Bond-like. Um, then, as I was kind of doing the sound check, this is a return of the Aston Martin. Beforehand, they replaced it with the Lotus, otherwise known as the Wedge box car. From the 70s. So, which is really odd to me, because I could have swore that uh Roger Moore drove an Aston Martin in his movies, but apparently not. And I guess that makes him the only Bond so far not to drive an Aston Martin, which is kind of weird with him being the longest tenured Bond.
Fair.
But that is what it is. And then I guess we're gonna go right down into casting. I'm gonna, before we get into Timothy Dalton's casting as James Bond, I'm gonna go through the other people, just because it's gonna be less time, while the whole thing of how Timothy Dalton becomes Bond's a little longer, if that helps.
Sure.
All right. All right. First, we're gonna go with casting. We're gonna go with well, might as well start with the main Bond lady here. Mariam Diabol, who was a English. I mean, she still is an English actress, but she was also a model beforehand, and she is cast as Kara Milovi, a Czechoslovakian cellist that ends up being Bond's love interest in the movie. She ended up getting the role after auditioning for the role of the female Russian spy in A View to a Kill, but lost that role. And then, but she impressed Cubby Broccoli's daughter, Barbara, enough for her to actually get the call to audition for this role, and then she ended up getting the role. What's really cool is that Diabo actually hosted a documentary when Die Another Day came out in 2002, called Bond Girls Are Forever, where they actually talk about the evolution of Bond women throughout the James Bond series. And that documentary was updated 2 more times. First time with the release of Casino Royale, then next with the release of Quantum of Solace, and then a final time up until this point as a recording with Skyfall in 2012. That being said, next we're gonna have one of the villains, Jodom Baker, who plays Brad Whitaker, who ended up getting this role due to his performance in a English TV series called Edge of Darkness. And Jodom Baker's one of the actors that are in this that been in a lot of movies. Jodom Baker, if you don't know the name, you're gonna pretty much know him if you see him. If Ted definitely agreed on that. He's like, I've seen him in this. I don't know.
We even opened up his IMDb because I know there's something I saw him in recently, and I can't place it for the life of me. It's still driving me nuts, to be completely honest.
But yeah, he couple of things that he was in was the original version of Walking Tall in 1973. He was in Fletch. He also, oddly enough, despite playing a villain in this film, ends up playing an ally in GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies with the role of Jack Wade, which confused me when I was a kid because I saw, GoldenEye first before Living Daylights, and I'm just like, why is Jack Wade a villain? And then I realized, like, oh, it's a different character. But what else is he in? Holy shit! Oh, he's in Joe Dirt. He's Brandy's dad in Joe Dirt. Uh, Government Jim Applewhite and Dukes of Hazzard. Gosh, what else would people know him in? That's fairly recent. Oh, and Glenn Norris and Mars Attacks. um. Also, we have for the other villain, uh, Jurin Krabby as General Georgy Kozkov. I know while watching this, I thought Jurin Krabby was Austrian. He's actually Dutch. The main reason why I thought he was Austrian is because he kind of looks like the synth pop musician Falco, who's known for his song Rock Me Amadeus. So therefore, I just kind of got the two confused, and it's just like, oh yeah, he's from Austria. But he's actually Dutch, and he's known for his performances in The Fourth Man in 1983, and also in 1993's movie The Fugitive. Let's see, we got Andreas Wisniewski as Necros, who is basically the heavy henchman in this movie. And that brings us to allies. We got, oddly enough, a improvement from Octopussy. Instead of having the Afghanistan guy being played by a Frenchman, Cameron Shaw, the leader of the Afghan Mujahideen, is played by Pakistani-born British actor Art Malik, who's known for his role as Hari Kumar in The Jewel and the Crown, and recently as Amir Aziz in the movie Halal Daddy. Just because I had to throw the D word in there.
Bastard.
Oh yeah, and he's also Sheikh Khalid in Sex and the City too. Let's see here. We got Carolyn Bliss as Miss Moneypenny, the first person to actually take the role over from Lois Maxwell. And then the probably the biggest name in here besides Timothy Dalton, although I think maybe this guy's probably a little bit more famous. That would be John Rhys Davies as General Pushkin. Originally, Pushkin's role was going to be General Gogol, who we've seen before, and Gogol's in this at the end with like a brief cameo, and he's still played by Walter Gattel. However, Gattel was like really sick during shooting, so therefore, he was unable to have that role. So they ended up making a part and then cast John Rhys Davies in this. And John Rhys Davies has been in so many movies. Like it's kind of crazy. I think the latest thing that people would know him in is Salah in the Indiana Jones movies and Gimli in Lord of the Rings. If is there anything else that you think that he would probably most likely people would know him in? Like at least
not offhand. I think the Lord of the Rings would be the big one, probably.
Yeah, same. But John Rhys Davies, another actor, you know him when you see him. We also have Felix Leiter makes an appearance again, played by John Terry. He gets recast in the next one, sadly enough, especially since Felix Leiter plays a bigger role in License to Kill. But John Terry's known for playing Christian Shepherd in the TV series Lost, and unfortunately, he's only in like 2 scenes in this movie. um, although they are kind of important, somewhat to like how the ending pops in, but whatever. And now we come into like the big casting: Timothy Dalton as James Bond, and here we go into the convolutedness of Timothy Dalton become James Bond. I brushed upon this earlier. He was asked to play Bond twice, all the way back from like On Her Majesty's Secret Service. He said no because he was too young, and then For Your Eyes Only, he said no because he saw Moonraker.
Fair.
At least that's my. I'm paraphrasing on that. Really, it was like he didn't care for like the silliness of how the series was going, which is code for he watched Moonraker. But originally he was not going to be cast as James Bond in this movie. Originally, it was going to be Pierce Brosnan, who was in a television series called Remington Steele, which was on NBC, and it was canceled after like 2 seasons. And essentially, he basically plays James Bond on television, and he, you know, nailed it out of the park with his audition. They were going to have him in there. NBC caught wind of that. It was just like, well, guess what? We are not canceling the series. Come back, Mr. Brosnan, because they wanted to bank on the fact that they had James Bond as, their main role. And Cubby Broccoli caught wind of that, got pissed off, and axed Pierce Brosnan and made the statement, Remington Steele will not be James Bond. So, thank you, NBC. You kind of almost fucked him over. After that, they had like a couple other people audition. The big person that could have been Bond, besides Timothy Dalton, was Sam Neill, who is a New Zealander actor. And for those who don't know who Sam Neill is, he is Dr. Alan Grant in the Jurassic Park movies. I had to look up the name of the character. Pretty much the guy that's not Jeff Goldblum, that's in like multiple Jurassic Park movies. That being said, he nailed it out of the park. Cubby Broccoli just wanted Timothy Dalton just because like he tried getting him beforehand, and Timothy Dalton was also still kind of iffy on whether he actually wanted to commit to the part. And then like he literally said like he was like deliberated it in the airport, and it was just like, all right, I'm in. I'm gonna do it. And while doing this, he definitely wanted to not be Roger Moore. He wanted to be his, not only just like his own Bond, but wanted to actually bring the Bond out of the novels, since he was a fan of the novels, and did a lot of research. And in his actual quote was, I definitely wanted to recapture the essence and flavor of the books and play it less flippantly. After all, Bond's essential quality is that he's a man who lives on the edge. He could get killed at any moment, and that stress and danger is a factor reflected in the way he lives. Chain smoking, drinking, fast cars, and fast women. And he ends up playing Bond for this film, and the next film was contracted up until I think like for either like 3 films, or like he actually had like a time period where he was like contracted until like 91 or something like that, like 91 or 93. But we'll get into why he never made a third Bond film, either at the and while we're talking about License to Kill, probably briefly, and definitely when we get into GoldenEye, because there is that long gap between those movies. And spoiler alert: the whole thing of United Artists buying out Harry Saltzman's portion of the company has to deal with that. So more lawsuits. But that being said, I guess it's time for likes and dislikes.
Sure. You want to go first?
Um, hmm. I think I can. All
All right.
right. Not sure what to do first.
I guess let's start with likes, because dislikes are gonna get kind of goofy real fucking fast.
Yeah. All right. I fucking love Timothy Dalton as James Bond. Like, I'm gonna say this right now. Spoiler alert. Uh, I honestly think that Timothy Dalton's probably my favorite James Bond, just because I'm kind of stoked that he's probably as close as it gets to Bond in the novels. Not that this isn't me saying that Connery, Lazenby, or Daniel Craig or Pierce Brosnan don't bring in elements of that, but they're more or less like their own take of the character, and they have like certain aspects, but they don't do other aspects of the character. While Timothy Dalton really kind of meshes together, and also it really helps that he's also a very experienced actor. And by the way, since I remembered this, Timothy Dalton also was in the 80s Flash Gordon film, and hopefully this is my last time I fucking reference that movie to the Bond series, because it's quite frankly rather weird that so many actors from Flash Gordon have been in the James Bond movies. um, but anyway, it's nice that uh, uh, and by the way, for those that don't know who Timothy Dalton is, he's the villain in Hot Fuzz, or one of the villains. If you remember the character's name, Ted.
Yep. Um. Yeah.
Actually.
Fuck. Nope. No. I can see it now. Like I wouldn't have put the two together, but I get it now. Yeah. To
Shit.
to
Now I
play
actually.
to play off of what you said though, as far as like his portrayal of Bond, I one of my big credits was that I thought it was really positive to know that like it felt like a new flavor of Bond, right? I mean, I guess there wasn't like a massively significantly different feeling besides seeing faces between Connery and Roger Moore, right? I mean, like essentially they played very similar characters, and there wasn't a whole lot of like new and invigorating. And from the very beginning, Timothy Dalton definitely brought his own flavor in. You could tell that he was, while he was still Bond, he was a very different character. He brought his own spice to it, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and like with Roger Moore, he was able to do this in like film one because experienced actor, as opposed to like not saying that Connery was an experienced actor, but he was kind of new to acting, and people weren't sure how like to portray the Bond role at that point, so he took a couple films to get into there. And Lazenby, having no prior acting experiences at all, unfortunately wasn't able to really like carve a niche. Although I think his Bond was kind of going towards like how Dalton's was, but I think Dalton really solidified the like the real complexities of like the novel Bond onto the screen. And by the way, it's Simon Skinner's who Timothy Dalton plays in Hot Fuzz. There we go. But I really like also from this film the fact that it is played, even though there are a little like played for laughs moments in this that are holdovers from the Connery film. I like how it's a very, very grounded film, and that the whole plot of it is very realistic. Although we'll get into dislikes, there are moments in this where the suspense of disbelief
Hmm.
doesn't work, mainly because like with the serious tone of the film, there's a little bit of shall we say shortcuts that they do that
That's a delicate way
are
of
very
fucking putting it.
obvious because of how serious this film
Yeah,
is taken.
that's a really delicate way to put it.
Well, I want to save it for dislikes. Um, I think that the treatment of like the Bond woman in this, uh Kara, I think the relationship between her and Bond is really good, and because um with like a lot of cases, with the exception of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it's either like Bond forces himself upon this woman, and then she just so happens to fall for him, or like the Bond woman falls in love with Bond, but Bond doesn't necessarily fall in love with the Bond woman, or it's just like okay, they're hanging out, and all of a sudden they fuck.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
was a really well developed relationship. I mean, they gave the inner workings, they gave the backstory. Like, it felt like a thoroughly developed relationship between the two of them instead of just, hey, he's Bond, she's pretty, they fuck. Like,
Yeah.
it was well thought out.
And he doesn't force himself on anyone in this.
I mean, I guess he's a little pushy on the Ferris wheel, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's definitely
Right,
not like
yeah.
it's not forcing himself upon anybody. Like, basically, the reason she says no at first is because she knows she shouldn't, not necessarily because she's not interested. Like,
Right.
little different than we've seen in the past.
I keep forgetting about the fucking scene in the Ferris
Yeah.
wheel. But, there's that. I like how, like, even though it does get kinda, like, confusing a little bit, I do like how, like, kinda like in Octopussy, how the, plot, like, gets you're figuring out the plot as the movie goes. And then once it happens, like although I think an Octopussy has a better explaining of the plot once the plot gets revealed, like the villain plot gets revealed.
Right.
But I still think it's pretty great. I also think like the villains are rather interesting, although there isn't really a whole lot with like Brad Whitaker because Brad Whitaker's only in like 3 scenes. And although I think with what John Doe Baker is basically given, he does an all right job, even though I say John Don Baker, not John Doe. I keep thinking it's John Doe, it's John Don. Uh oh, Joe Don
Joe
Baker.
Don.
God
Yeah.
damn it. Joe Don Baker more or less plays himself, but it really kind of fits in this as like a cocky, arrogant, like American bad guy. Um which is might be the first and only time that we have an American, not an American playing a villain, but like someone in the movie is actually nationally American. The only other time that we might have that is with Drax in um Moonraker, since like we see him in, America with like his mansion and shit. However, Michael Lonsdale's speaking in a British accent the entire fucking time, so who knows what nationality Drax is.
Fair.
But so I thought that was rather interesting that wow, like, an actual American as like one of the main villains. I think Koskov is who's basically the villain that you see mostly through this. He would be kind of like an equivalent to like Kamal Khan and Octopussy. I like that he's like such a sleazeball in this movie. um, but that being said, like the action I think is like really good in this. I also like the cinematography. I think Ted would probably go more into that.
Hmm.
And I also as saying before, this really, because I've actually read the short story of the Living Daylights after I heard like one scene in this is like right from that short story. And that is like the short story, there's like a general that's defecting, and when Bond has to like protect the defector, and then he eyes up like this pretty cellist, and then the cellist, who ends up being Kara, ends up being shown as like a sniper. In the short story, it's just a sniper. Like he sees that it's the cellist, but since like Bond typically in the novels is shown to like he'll kill if he has to, but he doesn't like if he finds it unnecessary, he won't do it. So therefore, like he ends up like uh injuring the sniper. And then obviously like the person's like, you missed deliberately. It's like, yeah, well, like he escaped. And it's like, if anything, I just scared the living daylights out of her. Ha ha ha. That was so the name drop was in the novel, but that whole scene is played out almost exactly in this movie, and I love how like they take like a concept from a short story and really expand upon the detail, like why is this guy defecting, who exactly is the sniper, and everything that just leads up to that backstory just off of just like a really really like short thing that's mainly like a supposed to be shown to see the inner workings in Bond's mind, while you know in movie form it's like, all right, let's expand upon this concept, like what are all the details. And I just thought that that's really cool how they were able to basically take like a small short story segment and then make like an original story by building upon that.
Yeah, yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, without having read the short story, I mean, the way you explain it, I think it's pretty cool to take source material, especially short form source material, and turn it into a full length movie. I think is pretty neat. Um, as for some other things, you mentioned the cinematography. The scenery was fantastic. I mean, I don't think they shot this in any place that was anything less than stunning. The scenery, the locations they shot in were all absolutely brilliant. Um, Camera work was pretty decent. The one notable part about the movie making aspect was the sound design, or more the score, I guess.
No.
The like, so they started the movie with like a really heavy synth wave. We're in the middle of the '80s kind of vibe, right? Um, and I thought it was pretty fitting. It wasn't just them shoving popular music into places it didn't belong. As the movie developed, the synth wave kind of disappeared. They got into more um, I guess more music that was based on the location they were set in, which was
More orchestral music.
yeah, I was gonna say there was some orchestral stuff. There was some like notably, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a dick, but more like ethnic music, like things that were closer to the places that they were filming in. Um, so I thought their use of music in certain places that had happened throughout the movie was thoughtful and notably good. The scoring through the whole movie I thought was pretty fantastic. One other thing that you started to mention with the casting of Timothy Dalton, and I mentioned him feeling like a different character, was they took a really big leap into his independence. He it works for the government, right? Like, but in this movie it feels much more like he was on his own mission rather than whatever mission that M put him on. And it definitely felt like it was more him taking things into his own hands, being independent, leaning really heavy on espionage and actually uncovering things as a spy, like finding and gaining and utilizing information that he found on his own rather than whatever the intelligence team put on him. The independence of Bond separated from the government entity was really really neat, and I thought they utilized that really really well. If you want me to get into dislikes, I can do that too, but mine's gonna be long and corny, so you might want to start that one, Stallman.
All right. Here's a couple of dislikes that I have. One, I think even though I love the battle between Bond and Whitaker at the end, it's kind of rushed. To get to that point is rather rushed, because like there's like the whole like fight scene between like Necros and Bond on like the airplane, and then the whole like action sequence with the plane, and Bond and Kara like drove off. drive off, and then they cut to like Bond, storming um Whitaker's base to apprehend Koskov and Whitaker. And obviously he's getting the intelligence from Felix Leiter to get to that, which is nice that Felix Leiter is in this for like 2 scenes to bridge those 2 scenes, the whole thing together.
Right.
But to me it seems like something that should have been for like another film, like maybe Whitaker be like a villain in like this next Bond film, or like maybe later, kind of like a Blofeld type of role. Although with Dalton only being in 2 movies, I'm kind of glad that they did put it in this one, so that way we at least got it.
Right.
So that way there weren't any loose ends not tied. The other thing, the plot of this movie, like the villain plot, can be kind of confusing to realize what's going on, because I know Ted was a little confused on whether like it's like, well, why is Whitaker giving like Koskov orders? Like, how does like a random arms dealer have the authority to do this? So then,
Yeah, you watch the whole movie before they describe to you how the villains are intertwined, but also like even after having watched it, understanding the plot, I still don't understand the dynamic between them. Who's in charge, or who's following whose orders, or who's orchestrating the whole thing, or if it's just they're all in it together. And even then, why somebody's giving orders when they're all on equal playing fields?
you're right.
Just kind of
And
bizarre.
yeah, it is bizarre. As far as I know, they're all on at least Koskov and Whitaker on equal playing fields. And the whole like plot of this is Koskov and Whitaker are trying to get Bond to kill General Pushkin because Pushkin basically discovered that Koskov is taking money that was supposed to be made to buy arms and buying diamonds, which they are exchanging the diamonds for raw opium that they sell on the market for like twice the amount of money that they were given for arms, and then basically buying the arms that they have, and
And then turning a massive profit.
yeah, and turning a massive profit. While at the same time, also, since the Mujahideen are selling the opium, basically are profiting off of this whole entire conflict in Afghanistan between Russia versus the Mujahideen. As a sense, like, it's like, all right, we got the weapons for the Russians for them to continue the war. Then we're also financing the Mujahideen with all these diamonds that they can sell. And therefore, they have like this whole entire racket. Pushkin basically finds out about the racket. And so, Koskov fakes deflection and basically saying like, yeah, Pushkin's planning on killing spies and escalating the Cold War. You should assassinate him. And it takes a while to get to how everything is put together. There's a lot of things where you're just like, well, why are they doing this? And then at the end, when you really see that it happens like that, you're just like, okay, I see that it happens, that it's like that, but like they could have done a little bit better explanation on getting to that point.
It's enough of a confusion that like you're interested in why, but it's not enough to keep you enthralled and focused for the end. And it's too confusing to just passively watch and understand. Like it's thorough and thought out, but it takes an hour and 45 minutes to develop that point, and it wasn't exciting enough to get you to the point where you get the payoff. Like it was
Right.
more
And
just
the
confusing.
payoff is exciting. It's just
Yeah, right. It's not enthralling up until that point to make you continue caring about it. Like
right.
it's just like, okay, that makes sense, and then you move on.
Yeah. Then you move on and it's like, all right, action.
Right.
Um but like that's why I normally tell people like this movie is like a film that you really have to watch multiple times, just because like once you kind of get it, you can kind of like see how everything falls into place. but like they could have done a better job for like a first time viewer to really, really get things
Sure.
and stay enthralled. Um, Other complaints that I have, I think Ted's got this.
I was gonna say most of what I've got left is effects and action. So if you got anything else, spit it now because I'm about to steamroll this shit. Uh, all right. First of all, not every vehicle crash needs to end in a motherfucking explosion. All right. Michael Bay watched this movie, blew his load like that crappy episode of South Park where there's only a little bit of internet left. Okay, like he looked like Stan in that one room with the computer. Okay, I'm
Don't you
telling you,
mean
Michael.
Randy?
That's right. Yeah, Randy walks. Yeah, just like he had to have had a field day watching this movie. He's like, man, that guy breathed too heavy and everything exploded. I got to do this. Every movie I ever had. This was You could have told me this was Michael Bay, and I would have believed you. I thought the plane scene with the end was the most notable example, but there were several points in time at which it was really hard to suspend disbelief. Flying a plane isn't that easy, especially when you're not focused. There's no rear view mirror from the cockpit into the cargo hold of the plane. Like just enough things that it's like, man, they filmed it this way on purpose, and it still doesn't make sense. It's really stupid. Another one was towards the beginning. The henchman had he was wearing a disguise as a milkman, carrying around bottles of milk. All of a sudden he throws them and they explode. No, that's not how that works. There was the car that the drives up next to Bond's Aston Martin. He blasts it with a laser, and then the top of the car comes off of the drivetrain when he hits the brakes. Man, fantastic. Haha, kind of funny. If you hit the brakes and your drivetrain is separated from the rest of the vehicle, the brake lines got cut. They're not going to work. You're not sliding the top half off of the bottom. Like this, it's just not how it works. They filmed action to look cool and not because it was anything close to realistic. All of the gunfire from all of the Russians just sounded like stormtroopers, and their aim was even worse. Like stormtroopers have a better hit registry than the fucking villains in this. All of the effects were really, really genuinely terrible.
I wouldn't say all, but there's
the action in the movie was decent, and then all of it got ruined by terrible effects. I don't know if it was cutting corners.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
I don't know if it was cutting corners. I don't know if it was just terrible. I don't know if it was a lack of foresight. I don't know if they employed 4th grade boys to just, hey, what's the coolest thing you could see in a James Bond movie? And that's how their action got written. Like, I genuinely have no idea how they did it, but I'm telling you, it was awful the entire way throughout. Watching any of the action, all of it was ruined by terrible effects. The last thing I'm going to harp on. All right,
this is the most egregious one. Ain't it?
I'm going to show you an image. Okay, if you've watched this podcast long enough, you know I do stupid things like, I don't know, count bullets and make sure that weapons work the way that they're supposed to. Okay, I've seen the most egregious thing I've ever seen in filmmaking. All right.
And it's not even a moonraker.
So it started with the scene with the sniper, right? We were watching with Mike, who was featured a couple podcasts ago for Moonraker. He pointed out that, like, if you're sniping, you shouldn't be hanging out on a balcony because, like, you're making yourself a target, right?
At least in Kara's case, like, she's not...
Kara's got a purpose. Without spoiling the whole plot, I get it for her, although still, you're right, relatively stupid positioning. Bond, no excuse. There's 2 of them. They're out on a balcony making themselves seem like they've done things wrong. So I was kind of hyper-focused, all right? We get into the chase scene with the Aston Martin. I'm going to show you all an image. All right. If you can look at this, a direct screen cap from the movie, I need you to tell me what's wrong with it. I'll give you a moment.
Absolutely nothing. What are you talking about?
All right.
It's the latest. It's the latest attachment.
So
for the AK-47 in Call of Duty.
You're right. Even in Call of Duty, they put explosives on the underbarrel where it's like a secondary piece on the bottom of it. And while it's not always realistic for every gun in Call of Duty because it's not based on realism, at least they make it where your gun still fires the weapons it's supposed to. With this particular image, this man has shoved a Nerf rocket onto the barrel of his AK-47, is stabilizing it by holding the magazine, which clearly wouldn't fire anything because it's not firing bullets. It's a Nerf rocket stapled to the end. And this fires. He fires this rocket from the barrel of his AK-47, and We
Twice.
genuinely stopped.
Twice.
Genuinely stopped in the middle of this movie to rewind it to rewatch this again because this is so egregiously bad. I thought there's no way they could fuck this up that bad.
We did
Admittedly,
this. The funny thing is that after the movie was done, Mike was arguing with us, going,
right.
"No, there was someone standing next to him.
And-
It was just John. It's just."
admittedly,
it's just
like,
Dalton's fucking terrible fucking
right.
stream. And I'm like,
Discord can be kind of scuffed sometimes. So watching movies that way isn't always the best. Sometimes it's pixelated. I mean, it was pretty fast-paced action, right? But I was pretty convinced he was the only guy there. So we rewound it. We had a discussion about it through the entire rest of the chase scene. We got to the end of the movie. I had to go back and look at it on YouTube again. We watched that scene probably 15 times back to back because we thought there was absolutely no way on God's green earth anyone would ever say this is feasible. Even I could even forgive it. You needed explosions as a part of the chase scene, so be it, right? Thank you, Michael Bay. But I get it, right? They could have at least pretended to put a rocket launcher there. They could have pretended an underbarrel was a thing. They could have thrown grenades. They could have done a million different things. The one thing they could have done, even without adding any of those things to add realism, they could have just made an explosion and not shown you the guy firing it. They decided to film this. They saw it happen. They put it in the motherfucking film like this. It's absolutely asinine. How do you just not care at all? Like this is very clearly like, we need an explosion. We don't know what to do, and we don't know guns.
and the sad thing is that everything else is so meticulous and great, and it just makes it stick out.
The plot line was so thorough, the action, the dialogue, the scenes, the scenery, even the scenes that develop, like all of everything in this movie has a purpose. There's a place for everything. And then they fuck it up like this with just complete and total apathy for realism. What the fuck is that dumb shit? Who possibly let this happen? I was so irrationally angry all day today. We watched it yesterday. I was still thinking about this image. Stallman gets on Discord so that we can do this podcast. He's like, "Are you ready for me to sound check?" I said, "No. The most important thing is making sure this image is visible because I swear to God, somebody else needs to be as mad as I am." It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Of all of the action, of all of the ways that they took like shortcuts or unbelievable liberties to make certain things happen. How on earth does that get put in the final cut of the movie? It was a quarter of a second long. You could have cut it. Nobody would have noticed the difference. It's just they're shooting things at him. Things must be exploding, right? They could have totally let it go. Somebody put it in the movie on purpose.
I mean, even like the exploding like milk jars, that I even can forgive that because it's like, well, if he has explosives in there and shit, you know. But however, my egregious thing is that the explosions ended up getting bigger towards like more often when he threw like the thing, like he threw one, it's like, okay, like a grenade explosion, that's realistic.
And they were different explosions. Some of them hit the ground and instantly blew up. Some of them hit the ground, created smoke, then you saw an outside shot of the house, and then it blew up. Like, there was no they didn't give a shit about weapons or technology or effects. They just absolutely fucking biffed it. I was so angry, so angry watching any of the action in this movie because even the good parts of the action got fucking ruined. The one that kills me, I didn't even write it in my notes, but now that I'm thinking about all the reasons that I'm mad about this movie again, the one where what's his the other spy that's working with him, the informant,
Saunders.
Yes. Okay. So, spoiler, Saunders dies, right? He dies from like one of those automatic doors, right? It just fucking, he clicked the henchman clicks a fucking button, the door slams, and all of his bones get crushed dead on impact. Like, bro, the door would break first. You can literally push through those. They have three different axes for you to bend through them. He's just like, let's slam this so hard the guy's bones collapse. It just like I
don't know. I mean, it happens kind of off screen. You don't really exactly know what happens
all right.
to him.
Okay, for any of you who haven't like worked in a retail environment that have those automatic doors, right? The doors push open like swinging doors in the event of an emergency and there's no power. If that doesn't work, most of them have a latch that allows you to like bend from the bottom up so that it comes up like a barn or a garage door, right?
I
And
did
then
not know that.
right, and then they're made of tempered glass so that the glass gives before the structure of the building, right? So
Right.
there's 3 different points in which that door would have broken before it could ever create enough force to murder a man. I don't
I mean,
even
it
if it's
did
off
break.
screen, even if it's off screen, right? You can make the assumption that this door shutting killed the guy, and I'm telling you that door would give long before he did. They're like they took all of these cool ideas, they took all of the good action, and then all of them got ruined by shitty, lazy, stupid effects. I'm telling you that the action scenes in this movie were written by a group of 4th graders. There's no other way that all of this gets through a board and gets approved to be put in the final cut of this movie. It's absolutely fucking stupid. Oh, and don't even get me started on the fucking tire. Okay, in that same
Oh,
in that same chase scene, the same chase scene on the ice, right? They had a tire pop. Okay, they uses the rim of the tire to cut out a hole in the ice so that one of the cars chasing him sinks. All right, great. I'll pretend. I can't suspend disbelief entirely, but like, okay, it's less egregious than some of the other dumb shit I've already seen. I guess we can pretend it's okay. All right. But then, the way he gets away is skis come out of his car. It's like Superman. Every superpower you could ever want, this car fucking has, you know? And then spikes come out of the other tires to create grip on the ice. If you can puncture 3 of your tires with spikes that are already pre-installed, how the fuck do you pop a tire? How do you put those 2 things in that order? How do you make that happen and feel okay about it?
Well, the tire that popped was in the back, so maybe the front tires are different from the back tires.
I don't give a shit. If you have spikes that go through the tires, clearly you have some sort of technology that makes your tires not fucking pop. And if you're telling me that the entire British intelligence community that can build this car with lasers, jet skis, goddamn everything, they're like, yeah, well, because of the lasers, we had to cut the budget, and 2 of them are just regular. Go fuck yourself.
I mean, there's been budget cuts on stupider shit.
I'm so fucking angry. I'm so.
I know that's why I'm poking the bear.
Oh man.
But no, I think, and the thing is that with like the plot and everything else like being so good, like when this movie does have like little fuck ups like that, it makes them a lot more obvious, and that's honestly like very unfortunate because
Yeah,
like,
you know, all in all, the scene with the plane, it drags on a little bit. I had my gripes as we were watching it, but all in all, I don't think it's that terrible an ending, right? But even then,
right.
like, so the plane that Bond is in is taking off. Another plane is landing. It creates suspense. These planes are going to collide. That plane comes down and hits this car that was following Bond's plane, trying to get on it. Right?
He's still going. Yes.
The plane hits the roof of the car. Right? They both explode. The driver of that car is alive. Not only did the plane wing not kill him, not only did the explosion not kill him, he's alive in this burning fucking car with a wing sticking out where it's like all but touching his forehead. Right? He drives a little bit further. Can't stop. Hits something. I don't remember. It blows up. They wait a second. And then it blows up again. Like, you're just looking for an excuse to make things explode. Like, even the believable, like, humorous parts of it were ruined by how shoddy all of the absolutely stupid action was.
And the thing is that the action,
all of it
itself is like well shot, well done. It's just the concept of it is rather dumb.
Absolutely asinine. Oh man, it drove me nuts. It drove me fucking nuts.
Because we're not saying that. Because he's not saying that the effects themselves look bad. It's the concept of the
way in which they had decided to do them was stupid. We need to move to rankings before I continue to go off, or this podcast is going to be 3 hours long. I'm getting angry again.
All right. So overall, we're gonna go with rankings here. All right. I might piss off Ted more on this. All right, for where the fuck I'm ranking this. All right. I've made it very clear that I really like the Timothy Dalton films. Living Daylights is a film that I kind of like more and more every time I watch it. However, like I said, with like how like the plot gets a little confusing and also like the little like dumb shit that they do with the action. Uh, I can't like put it I can't put it above From Russia with Love. Although like I think that the story itself is a better story than From Russia with Love, but like I think this movie is better than Octopussy. So I have it at
Wow.
number 3.
Okay. Despite how it may have sounded when I, went through my likes and dislikes, I did enjoy the movie. All right. Like, it was an enjoyable watch. The problem is I can't put it nearly as high as you do because there were so many things that I couldn't suspend disbelief, so many things that made me hostile that like if they didn't care about their movie, how am I supposed to? Right?
Well, I'm also a lot more forgiving on shit than you, so
That's fair. That's fair. I don't show up on my mentions being wrong. Don't put something in front of me with horrible inconsistencies. Please just don't
yeah.
fucking do it.
And on top of that, like despite me be like, forgiving on a lot of shit, I still have Moonraker dead last. So
I
that-
I put this one 7th, below The Man with the Golden Gun. And the deciding factor there for me was that I found the enjoyment level of watching both movies was pretty similar, like enjoying them both as just sitting down and watching a movie.
So what you're saying is that rocket launcher AK-47 is worse than slide whistle ruining the fucking
So the thing that separates them, right, is this one was harder for me to suspend disbelief, and I found myself being notably more upset during the watching of this movie, right? There were things about The Man with the Golden Gun that I was like, that kind of sucks. But then I was able to move on. I spent the entirety of fucking today angry about that stupid fucking AK-47. All right, like the entire goddamn day.
That's like me with the fucking slide whistle.
I think it's better than The Spy Who Loved Me. I enjoyed it about the same as The Man with the Golden Gun just as a viewing experience, but the problems I have with this movie are all going to put it lower.
No, I honestly think that's a really good spot to really put it. I mean, to me, I'm just a little bit biased. That's why it's as high as
Man,
high as it is.
I will be honest. Like, I know it's a small sample size to this point, but I really did enjoy the character that Timothy Dalton played. Like, I found myself thinking as we were. Spoiler: I have no fucking idea where I'm ever going to put these movies until the moment I say it out loud on this podcast. I like thinking about it through this, like trying to figure out where to rank it. I'm thinking to myself, like, had this been the exact same movie but with Connery, I don't know that it would be as high. Same with Roger Moore. Like I really
Right.
think Timothy Dalton's performance and the way that the movie was written for him or around him, I really think added a great deal of respect from me towards this movie.
I agree. I think that's mainly the reasons why I have it this high is because like Timothy Dalton's really, really good, especially with like in his first outing. Almost kind of like why we have Live and Let Die as high as it is, because like Roger Moore's so good in that one.
Yeah,
Right off the get go.
yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a healthy place to keep it, like, and trying to be, man, I could be so mad about that AK. I could tell you that there were effects in Moonraker that were better. Okay, like I'll be honest, but like I said, the quality of watching the movie as a movie rather than as a critic, right? Like I definitely think gives this a place towards the top of the list.
I will say this though. All right. Whenever comes the time when Ted says, I'm starting to like, appreciate Moonraker more, like he has with Goldfinger. Clip it.
If I ever do
Clip
that
it.
with Moonraker, if I ever do that with Moonraker, someone should take away my ability to watch movies forever. Like that.
Clip
Oh,
that and request on Ted's stream
oh,
to make that a sound clip.
oh God, I'll regret it every single time, but I assure you, it's never gonna happen. Never. All right. Well, I think that about wraps us up for this one.
Yeah.
So standard things. You can watch Bond movies with us in the Discord on Tuesday evenings. They start at about 6:30 Eastern time. Stallman's usually pretty good about posting either on Monday or
Okay.
beforehand on Tuesday to notify us. We are also 5 weeks ahead though, so by the time you watch this,
Yeah, we're either watching Casino Royale, just or The World Is Not Enough.
Okay.
Wait, no, 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 no. Sorry. The World Is Not Enough or Die Another Day. Sorry,
Okay.
I
Okay. Anyway, anyway, feel free to join us for future movies. We'll be watching them on Tuesdays in the Discord. As always, follow both of us on Twitch, Stallman at Traductus and myself at Ted Green Eagles. Feel free to hop in the Discord and, utilize that to its fullest extent. All kinds of cool stuff to find in there, as well as the rest of the YouTube channel where you can find Let's Plays, Mike's Music Podcast, really old highlight videos. And otherwise, I think we'll catch you next week.
Yes, I say that as well. Also, if you want more Ted Rages, check out the Goldfinger episode, the Moonraker episode,
Oh.
Diamonds Are Forever episode, to even see me rage. And when we get to Die Another Day, there's definitely going to be Ted Rage in that, along with me. Because if you thought the effects were stupid in this movie...
All right. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, later.